Well, black people are Native Americans. We've had a lot of proof that some of us started here in this land. Everybody wasn't brought over from Africa.
What are they doing here? They're Indians.
This is one of my many unsuccessful experiments. You see, with Indians, there's absolutely nothing to be done. There's the same difference between a Negro and an Indian as there is between a dog and a coyote. You can put a dog on a leash, beat him, and he'll always be there to lick your feet. Take away a coyote's liberty and you've cut off his heir. An Indian will never be a slave. No one has ever been able to make them reproduce in captivity. They do not eat, they do not talk, they do not sleep, they do not make love.
There are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people, but that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color.
After the African LeVar Burton had been told that his name was to be Toby, and he refused it, and he was beaten to make him say his name was Toby.
How was the dramatization? How much of that actually was recounted to you? I mean, was there a lot of interweaving?
A lot of it, I thought maybe you were going to ask, and maybe you are in another way, is how much of the book is fact and how much is fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction. Well, a whole lot of it's fiction.
Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe? I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people.
Hank really is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have the largest...
He didn't exclude you. He included you.
But we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns. We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%. Less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
You do not know a goddamn thing about Africa. I am from Detroit, Motown. So you can watch Tootsie your monkey ass back to Africa if you want to.
Hello. Well, sorry. Hello. Oh, hello. Sorry, y'all. Hey, y'all. Yes. Today is Educational Friday. Happy Educational Friday, people. You guys, first, please come on in, like the video, please, and thank you. That would be wonderful. We need to get the video in the algorithm. Let the people know we around here Jostin', okay? Number one. Number two, when I thought about what to do this week, I started thinking about this whole reparations thing. Shout out to the FBA people. But the FBA people is going hard about this reparations in the form of cash payments. And I know they've been duped around and played, you know what I'm saying, for a lot of stuff with the same people that they thought were here to help them. So I figured I've done a Educational Friday called Reparations in the Form of Land. I said, why not make this a series? Because I don't think that FBA realizes that there are so many revenues and so many ways in which they can get reparations. So I said, okay, we talked about the Great Migration. We talked about all these other things that happened, Oscarville, all these other things that happened where Negroes, aka black people, were moved from their land forcibly, if not moved unalived. I was like, and I think that this needs to resonate with people, even with Rosewood, even with Tulsa. This needs to resonate with people, and not just from a stories point of view, more or less from like, hey girl, if you had family, if you do your genealogy and you realize, hey, my family had the homestead over here, or my family had this, had that, those are some certain ways you can go back around and get reparations. So the purpose that I'm going with right now with this series, as far as reparations in the form of land, is just giving people other options on how they can go and get their reparations. But the only way we can do that is if we do our genealogy. That's the only way you'll be able to go and get your reparations. Now, shout out to them fighting for it in the form of cash. Y'all know how I feel about it. I got to be completely honest. I feel like because it wasn't 100% true, the way in which they told us the slavery story, that they know that they really don't owe us what we believe. Mind you, we only believe it because they told us that. However, because they know that they fabricated a lot of things, and that you can't just take a group of people and say all of y'all ancestors were slaves. That's why they let Black America, FBA, go around in circles with this reparations in the form of cash payments due to slavery. So again, my objective is to open the people's ears and their minds to other ways in which they can get reparations, because it's not just slavery, it's all other things that can happen. Now, there are people who are going to do their genealogy and they're going to see, oh snap, my family was a slave on this plantation, these are the family, and then you can go after said family. But for the most part, I want us to understand that reparations is not a one-track minded thing. Okay, it's just not. Reparations comes in all forms. If you are a foundational Black American, or if you are a Black American on this soil and you can trace your genealogy back generations, you are owed. Let me say that again. If you are a foundational Black American, or a however you want to identify, if you can trace your genealogy generations back on this land, not South America, not the Caribbeans, not the Afro-Latino people. No. Right here, you are owed. Some way, somehow. Everybody's story is different. So I just want people to know that they can open up their options. So again, you guys like the video so we can get into it. I'm almost done. See, let me say this. So I'm working on this Seneca Village thing, right? And I'm an overthinker and I'll do too much. So I went too far back in history, right, with the Seneca Village thing. Girl, I did a whole hour of what that landmass in New York was about, girl, like way before Seneca Village was even a thing. I did too much. I literally did. So what I'm thinking about doing is chopping that and just making that its own thing and then going right into Seneca Village. Because, girl, I got a whole hour's worth of footage. Do you hear me? And we hadn't even gotten to the Seneca Village part because I'm going back through the history. You know what I'm saying? But I've still got that working. But I want to make this a thing, okay? So hopefully it goes the way that it goes. But doing those type of videos, it made me think about, okay, what other massacres has happened, you know what I mean, to our people? Because again, let me say this, it's not just in the South, in the North, in the East, in the West, all over. We have been done wrong a long time, a very long time, to be completely honest. And at this point, I feel like we need to start putting that on blast, and we need to make it a thing, you know what I mean? Because you never know doing your genealogy where you might get something from. So that's where we're going with it. And this will be the second, or really the first, but this is one from the Elaine Massacre in Arkansas. Okay. There's Elaine Massacre. Let me go get it. Hold on. A lot of you guys may or may not be familiar with the Elaine Massacre. If you are not, I wasn't as well. So don't beat yourself up, because I ain't know nothing about it either. I ain't gonna lie, I ain't never heard of it. When they teach us about these massacres and these riots and things of that nature, they always go to the famous ones. What are they? Rosewood, Tulsa. You know, the ones that be on the movies. You know what I mean? They always make sure they go to the one that everybody already know about. And they do that for a reason. And let me tell you what this reason is. The reason they do that is because they don't want you to start digging and realizing this wasn't a one-off or a two-off. This was happening all over America. Literally. I told you I just found out about what happened down there where Georgia, the university, is it UGA? Yeah, where Georgia is in not Forsyth. Ding on it. It's where Phaedra and Nene from. Girl, what part of Georgia that is? It's on the tip of my tongue. Athens. In Athens, Georgia, how they literally ransacked the town over there and built the whole college and then kept the Negroes out of it. Like, this is everywhere. This is literally everywhere. And I want to explore this. You know what I'm saying? I really do. I want to explore this. So, back to where we from. So Arkansas, there was a thing from the called the Elaine riots. It literally just turned 100 years old, or there was a 100-year anniversary in 2019. In 1919, there was a Elaine massacre. And as you know, as the story goes, we're going to start figuring this out. It's the same storyline every single city. They don't even try to switch it up. They literally don't. The only thing switch up in these situations are the character names. That's it. But the same logic and the same method and the same pathology is happening in all of these cities. And that's a lie. It's impossible. So you mean to tell me the same thing was happening all over America and the same results happened? Stop it. But that they found something that nobody would question them on and stuck to it. Because remember, at the time, the clears were the people in positions of power. But now that we've seen that this is all a bunch of BS, we can go back and look at it and be like, nah, that ain't cool. So anyways, the Elaine massacres, the Elaine riots, right? So here is a photo. Let me go get it. Hold on. Because I y'all can see it, but I can't. Sorry. So here's one of the photos. Elaine rioters who were brought to pen to pay death penalty in chair. They would listen. They unalived a whole group of people. It says left to right. Ed Hicks, Ed Coleman, Ed Ware, Frank Moore, Paul Hall, Albert Giles, Giles, Joe Knox, Frank Hicks, Joe Fox, Alfred Banks Jr., Martin and William Wordlow. Listen, somebody's genealogy got these men on there. Somebody's genealogy, if they were to do it, has these men on here. Okay? Let's be clear. Somebody's genealogy going to reach back to one of these men. This is why it's important to understand that you're different from the other so-called blacks that are here. Now, it's important because these men were wrongfully unalive. You know what I mean? And it's not just them, it was other people as well, but we're going to get into it. Y'all like the video if you haven't already. I got a video, and of course y'all know I got articles as well. Let me show y'all some more. I got a couple more pictures I want to show y'all before we get into it. Let me show you this. Hold on. Well, you know what? It'll come through the thing. It'll come through the story. So y'all like the video. Let's get into it. I hope y'all got y'all things together. We is about to get into it. All right. Now, I found a few articles that I kind of wanted to go over. And I also have video. Now I have an overview and I have the actual thing. I have the actual article that talks about what really happened. And we're going to get into that. But I want y'all to know, like I said, this stuff is real. This stuff is really real. And the fact that nobody talked about this in school tells me everything that I need to know. Nobody talked about this in school. Literally nobody. All right. But we're going to get into it. Now, here we have an article. Let me share my screen from NPR. And like I said, I have a video I'm going to show y'all to kind of put it in perspective. Like the video, y'all, please. Here's an article from NPR.org. You know what I'm saying? And this is discussing the events that happened during that time. You guys get in here and like the video. It says event examines deadliest racially charged massacre in Arkansas history. Now, here's a photo. This is one of the photos I had saved anyway, but here's a photo of, you know, what them clears was doing. Gathering together, trying to figure out how they gonna kill them a nigga. You see what I'm saying? Y'all know how it go. It been like this since I'm telling you, the events don't change. The only thing changed in these situations are the characters. That's literally it, okay? So we get into the article. It says, with the start of Black History Month just weeks away, a new event will examine in one of the lowest points in the history of race relations in Arkansas. The Voices of Elaine Symposium will discuss events surrounding the 1919 killing of as many as several hundred Black people in eastern Arkansas, an event now known as the Elaine Massacre. Event chair Christy Rossett says the deadly incident of racially charged violence is still relatively known. Those who survived were told, do not talk about it. In fact, there was even a newspaper article saying to go to work, continue your lives, do not talk about it. And the survivors needed to pretend like nothing happened because they were still in fear of their lives or fear of getting their family members killed, Rossett said. So as you can see, they continued with the doggone threats. Remember, the KKK is rampant around this time. Between September 30th and October 12th, hundreds of Black men, women, and children were killed in the Phillips County community of Elaine. Black sharecroppers attempting to get a higher, fair price for their cotton were attacked at a meeting of the Progressive Farmers and Household Union. That led to days of mob violence on the part of white residents of Elaine and surrounding areas, leading Governor Charles Hillman Bro to send U.S. troops to round up Black residents suspecting of being involved in the massacres. I'm pretty sure this U.S. troops thing, these are your National Guard people. Rosette says the symposium will feature 3 descendants of victims of the massacres, some of whom were not aware of the violence for quite some time. Even the descendants whose grandparents, some who lived through the massacre and some who died, the descendants didn't hear about this until well into adulthood. It was even kept from family members, Rosette said. The event will also feature a screening of the documentary We Have Just Begun, the 1999 Massacre and Disposition. Former, Pulaski County Circuit Judge Wendell Griffin will also speak about the case of the Elaine 12 survivors of the massacre who were falsely convicted of killing 5 white people during the violence. Rosette says she hopes participants leave with a sense of motivation to help correct some of the state's historical wrongs. These events in history should be taught not to make people feel bad, but it's our history, and it continues to impact when there are buildings named after the governor who went to kill Black people for trying to earn a fair living. We should be aware of that. The symposium is hosted by the Hot Springs chapter of the NAACP and the Elaine Legacy Center. It's set for 11 a.m. February 4th at the Central Theater in Hot Springs. More information is available online. This is the biggest issue I have about that, and this is why I can't stand the NAACP. If anybody who's been on this channel, y'all know I have a thing where the NAACP was the worst thing for Black people. It was presented as a good thing, but it was never for that. The NAACP was put in place to keep you niggas docile. That's what it was. Don't retaliate. Don't worry about it. We got you. That birthed the whole civil rights movement thing and all of that. Okay? Now, my problem with this is you gonna tell us a story about how our ancestors been done wrong, right? And been unalived and all these damn things. And it is said this event in history should be taught not to make people feel bad, but it's our history. And it continues to impact where the building's name, where the governor who went to kill Black people are trying to earn a living. We should be aware of that way. It's another one I want to talk about. When he said, it was something to the effect, and maybe I lost it, but basically, like, you know, it was something help right the wrongs. There's something in here that says something about helping right the wrongs. No, that's what's wrong with us. That's what's wrong with us. Oh, there you go. Rosette says she hopes participants leave with a sense of motivation to help correct some of the state's historical wrongs. Oh, we gonna help correct it, all right. We want our reparations. We want our reparations. Yeah, let's talk about it. Because guess what? These family people were sharecroppers, you guys. The same sharecroppers they passed off to a lot of us as slaves. Remember, I told y'all, a lot of our family were sharecroppers, but we were sharecropping our own land. I've said that on many, many, many occasions. A lot of our ancestors were sharecroppers, yes. But a lot of our ancestors were sharecropping our own lands. They were their own farmers. And when they went to go get fair and due, just rightful, I mean, what's right was rightfully owed to them, they were unalive. And you got to know this, they took the land. This what I be talking about. This what I be talking about. So when you see sharecropper, they got us believing that a sharecropper equals a slave. That's not true. That is inherently not true. What happens is some of our family owned land and they sharecrop on their own land, period, dot. Period, dot. I want to go over this overview and then we're going to get into this video. It's ridiculous, bro. I you know, like I say, y'all got to read between them lines and them when y'all do y'all genealogy. When y'all do y'all genealogy, y'all gonna see some people say slave, and you're gonna find out the slave was actually the wife and the children of the head of the household, because that's how you had to put people as far as their classification, because you don't want to count them as a whole person. It's layered, this shit right here. It's layered. It's not just one dimensional. Okay. Let's get into this. Now, this is from UAL Rex. Girl, this man messing up my attention span. UALRERexhibits.org. Okay, and this is Elaine Race Massacre. Here goes some of the victims. All right. Oh, and this is a brief overview, and we're going to get into the video. Y'all like the video if you haven't already. And this is the overview of the Elaine Race Massacre by Dr. Brian Mitchell. The Elaine Race Massacre began on September 30th, 1999 and lasted until October 7th, 1919. Did I say 1999? Anyway, the catalyst for the massacre was the formation of a local chapter of the Progressive Farmers in Household Union of America, which is the PFHUA in Phillips County. The PFHUA was established in Winchester, a small community located in Drew County, Arkansas, by a local sharecropper named Robert Lee Hill in 1918. The union's goals were to help members obtain fair wages and treatment within the sharecropping system. The Black farmers who joined the union believed that by combining their financial resources, they could afford to hire legal representation and sue their plantation owners for stolen wages and spurious accounts of their debts, right? Accounting of their debt. Shortly after the Elaine chapter's formation, so-called good Negroes informed plantation owners of the union and its intentions. I told y'all, everybody can't go. Everybody can't go. Somebody snitched. On September 30, 1919, as the union members met at the Hoop Spur Church a few miles from the Elaine, the meeting was interrupted by the arrival of a group of law enforcement officers and a Black trustee from Helena's jail. The officer would contend that their arrival at the church during a meeting was a matter of fate and maintained that they stopped due to mechanical problems with their car. Bullshit. There are several conflicting narratives as to which group of the officers or the sharecroppers fired the first shot. What is known is that one of the officers was killed, W.A. Adkins, and another wounded, Charles W. Pratt, in the incident. The trustee, Kid Collins, escaped the shootout unharmed and made his way to Elaine, where he reported the shooting. Local telegraph operators contacted law enforcement in the neighboring towns and the governor's office. Within hours, mobs of hundreds of white men poured into the county to suppress the alleged Black revolt that had been reported to them. The governor contacted the Department of War and asked if the United States soldiers could be used to put down the alleged revolution. The Secretary of War directed more than 500 soldiers to go down to Elaine. The Black populace of Phillips County was subjected to violence from the mobs which flooded into the county. Deputized American Legion members, police officers, and soldiers added to the violence. Without sanctuary or refuge, Black sharecroppers were left with few options. Many hid in the swamps and thickets. Others were said to have been gunned down in fields as they worked, and throngs of others surrendered themselves to the authorities for arrest. Held in a makeshift jail, hundreds of blacks were detained until their participation in the PFHUA could be verified. Those farmers who had not participated in the union were held under their landlords until their landlords arrived to vouch for and collect them. Those fortunate enough to leave the stockade were given passes. They were to show on demand and were ordered to return to the fields for work. Now, this sounds like slavery to me. This is in 1919. Let's be clear. Slavery was abolished in 1863. And for real, in 1865. Here we are in 1919, where the landlords came to collect them and they had to have a pass to go out. This type of stuff make me feel like they taking real stories and morphed it into that slavery narrative that they showed us. I'm not saying it didn't happen, but the details is very murky for me. It says, scores of union members were charged with assault, murder, and night riding. 12 members were charged with capital murder and sentenced to death. The massacre and the sharecropper sentenced to death drew the attention of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP. Through grassroots efforts, the NAACP built support for the sharecroppers dubbed the Elaine 12 and raised money for their legal counsel. It was in the defense of the Elaine 12 that Scipio Jones, one of the lawyers of the 12, rose to national acclaim. Scipio Jones and the NAACP defense team worked to free the 12 defendants who were divided in the Moore versus Dempsey and Ware versus Dempsey cases. On February 19, 1923, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a 6-2 decision in favor of the Moore defendants, maintaining the 12 had been denied due process and noting the judicial proceedings had been influenced by a mob that had assembled outside of the courthouse before the men were sentenced. Despite the favorable ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, the Moore defendants remained in jail facing a retrial in district court. On November 3rd, 1923, Governor McRae commuted the death sentences of the sharecroppers to 12-year terms in prison, making them immediately eligible for parole. On January 13, 1925, the 6 Moore defendants were granted indefinite furloughs from McRae and were released from jail. This is what happened. Now, to the average person, they'll say, well, you know, Vu, at least the NAACP came in, represented them, and got them out, and they didn't have to be sentenced to death. And for that, I'm grateful for. But you got to understand this. The NAACP didn't work for black people. The NAACP worked for the government. Certain things have to happen for things to unfold the way they were going to unfold. Okay? And these men still spent 12 years in jail, 13 years in jail, behind a crime that they did not commit. And they posed it to the public as, oh, we don't know who shot the first gun. Why would these peaceful protesters, these peaceful Negroes who's trying to get fair wages, all of a sudden just start shooting at the police? Think about it. Think about it. It makes zero sense. So it gives the NAACP a good look for them to swoop on in and say, oh, see, we got them out of the death penalty. They still spent 13, 14 years in jail, where they shouldn't have been arrested from the beginning. But again, people will say I'm being bitter or I'm hating. No, I'm telling you what's real. You got to start opening your eyes. This stuff is not rocket science. The NAACP did not work for the betterment of the black people. You got to understand, jail during that time was like another form of slavery. It still is today, but especially, have y'all seen the movie Life? Have anybody in here seen the movie Life? Do you know that those scenes were set in this time? And in the South, that's what jail was. Slavery. You went out and worked in the fields, just like on the movie Life. Just like, see, at least the jails today, you go to prison. If you go to to a camp, then you might be one of those, who got caught up. But now they keep you inside of a cell and they mentally enslave you. But then you were literally physically enslaved. What you think happened to them people in? And remember, we talked about this last week. Son just said it in the chat. Remember this too. The Masons helped birth all of this. The Freemasons, the Boule, all that shit tied. It's a pyramid. All that shit tied together. NAACP, civil rights. It's a coincidence that Martin Luther King was an alpha. Coincidence. Nothing, intentional. Just a coincidence. All this shit is, yes, Divine Nine as well. All of this shit is tied in together. Why you think you got Divine Nine up at the White House right now? Think about it. Let's piece it together. Now you got D9 up at the White House hiding ski-wee, chucks and pearls. Just a coincidence, though. Just a coincidence. I love this, Meek. Meek says, now they act like they're doing prisoners a favor by allowing them to go on work release to do free labor. Let me tell you something. That mental enslavement, locking a person down, first of all, animals ain't even supposed to be locked down. But humans in particular. To lock a person down 23-1, that is the most inhumane thing you can do to a human. So unfortunately, it really is a favor for letting them out of the cage. Unfortunately. Even though it shouldn't be, and the government gets a win-win because they've already got you and they make money off of you. And then that money that they make off of you for having you there every day, they're going to make double money because now they're going to send you out there to do the work and pay you 10 cents a day. Like them starving Africans. It's just unfortunate that it is a favor. 23-1? Girl, look, if God forbid, knock on wood, I don't never want to do nothing, even land myself in that type of position. But if I'm ever in a position where I'm in 23-hour lockdown, 1 hour outside time in front of doggone cement walls, 3 hots in a cot, girl, I will go girl, you can put shackles on my feet and my hands, girl. Get me up out of here. I don't care if it's for an hour a day. Get me, because the mental enslavement, that's the one that always got us. It wasn't a physical enslavement. You get the mind, the body gonna follow. It was always the mental enslavement. So unfortunately, it is a favor. And they got you all excited to go make the government twice the money. That's ridiculous. But let me say this. You guys. That's what prison was like in that era. The movies be telling you was real. You worked on the railroad. You worked. That's why they had camps. Even today, let me see if I can find them prison camps in Texas. I ain't bullshit. Hold on. Let me see if I can find them prison camps in Texas. It's still like that today. They got them around the world somewhere. Hold on. They still got them today. And them people literally go out and they live in camps and they literally they go out and work all day and all night. They still doing it. They literally still doing it. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find one for y'all. Y'all like the video. If you haven't already, please like the video. I know a dude who was telling me about them prison camps. And to be completely honest, this is the messed up part about it. Dudes will tell you that they prefer the prison camps because at least they're not locked down. Again, that mental torture, that mental enslavement. Let me see. I can't, maybe I'm looking for it wrong. Let me see. Hold on. Here you go. I think I found it. Oh, yeah. Because I remember when the panorama came, they were talking about how they didn't know what to do. Tent City, that's the name of them things. Tent City. Hold on. Let me show y'all. So y'all can know I ain't playing. Let me see if I can go to an article and it'll show me better, like the photos. Because I know whenever I go to Google, the pictures be small. Here you go. Look, it's still like that to this day. Think about the movie Life. Tell them why we don't need no fences, boss. See, back then they could just unalive your ass. Now they got fences. But these men go to these camps and they literally work all day long. Look. Tell me that don't look like the movie Life. It made me think of that scene where they be saying, don't know when Ray was talking about the boom boom room. And he said, oh, don't nobody want to hear that shit, Ray. And they said, oh, shut up, Claude. Shut up, Claude. And he was like, Ray, finish telling me about that boom boom room. Oh, yeah, we had sex more down there last night. Same thing. But they give it to you through comedy. That's what prison looked like back then. That's literally what it was. So putting these men in prison was committing them back to slavery. Weird. And all they do is go out and work from sun up to sun down. Literally. That's their prison sentence. You will work your finger to the bone from sun up to sundown, just like a slave. So, I just wanted to share that with y'all. Now, I want to get into this doggone video, y'all. Y'all like the video. We're going to get into this video. I want to show y'all about what was going on about this Elaine massacre. This is a very informative video. This is on YouTube. Hold on, let me turn that off. This is on YouTube. I'm going to show you who the channel was. This is the Black Culture Unlocked on YouTube, y'all. Y'all make sure if y'all want to go over there and check them out. It seemed like this is more like of a Pan-African type of thing, but whatever. They think like African Americans and stuff. But remember that African American term came in the 80s. So when you're talking about stuff that happened in 1919, cap. Okay. Now, I want to get into this video that's going to kind of give y'all more of a visual of what happened back there. And again, y'all like the video if you have. Oh yeah, this is not just an overview. This is going to give you actual details of what happened that led up to this. I'm sorry.
We are certain that a reign of terror against the Black population of that part of Phillips County took place. We are certain that machine gun crews went out looking for people to gun down. Call that out for Mississippians to come to the rescue of the white men in Phillips County who were under severe attack. And so they jumped into cars and they jumped into trains. And at least according to the oral sources that I've talked to, they fired out of the windows at every black they saw. Women in the fields, it didn't matter. If it was black and moving, it was target practice.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let's go back to that and what this said. Hold on. There were 300 to 400 more white men with guns shooting and killing women and children farmers. Come on, man. This is a robbery is what this was. This is a fucking robbery. This was a murder and a robbery. That's all this was. And listen, you got to keep in mind, this is around a time where you didn't harm women and children for the most part. That was when they had like this thing, women and children, leave them alone. You know what I mean? For the most part. And there were 300 to 400 more white men with guns. I'm of the belief that one or two things, y'all know I'm a conspiracy theorist, so I go fall. I'm of the belief of one or two things. Number one, that land had something under it that they wanted. That was of importance. or that group of people was of a group of importance. You get it? Because you got to understand, there were groups of us, and there still are some of us that are different, that are, and they know it. There's even a thing, for instance, and we're gonna get back into the video, but I have to add this piece because I put this on here. Listen, Emmett Till mama did a interview, and she basically said, I knew my son was sent here to die like that, right? And I seen in the comments, people like, that's so insensitive. Why would she say that? I could never say that about my son. And I saw, I want to say it was Rod Wave, Lord forgive me. Not Rod Wave, Rod Hayes. I want to say it was Rod Hayes who was talking about this. I'm almost positive. Rod Hayes said that they killed Emmett Till because Emmett Till was a special Negro. He was different from the average Negro. He had a different assignment. He had an assignment, and the people who know who we are knew that. So that happened because they had to get rid of him. So then when I saw the interview where the mama said my son was sent here just for that, it made sense to me because I had more of a background on that. You know what I mean? And we can do an educational Friday on that. It was Rod. Thank you, Denise. Yeah, I know it was. I love Rod Hayes. I love Rod Hayes. We can do an educational Friday on that one day because all we told is this random black boy went from Chicago to Mississippi and he just got killed. It's way layered than that. Now, I'm using that to say this. Listen, either the land was of extreme importance or the people. You get it? Do I think it would have happened in Chicago? If the theory that he was supposed to go because of who he was, yes. Would it have happened like that? No. Because y'all got to keep in mind. See, what's his name? The Robert Abbott. He was the black guy who in Chicago Tribune, was it? He used his newspaper to lure black people from the South under the false pretenses that it's better up here. They ain't got no racism. That was all cap. Actually, the same thing was happening in Chicago, just not to the same magnitude and not as much. You know what I'm saying? But the same thing was happening. So I think it would have happened because they knew from the day he was born who he was. Okay? So they had to get rid of him. They couldn't allow him to get to where he needed to go. So if that theory is true, then yeah, I think they probably would have. It just would have material. But you know, even if we go off of what we've been taught, like the regular schmegular, no, it probably wouldn't have happened if he didn't go down to Mississippi by his granddaddy, or was his uncle? Was it his granddad or his uncle who gave him up to the people? I wonder if they was Masons. Anybody know about that? Anybody know if any of Emmett Till's family were Masons? I need to look that up because I always found it odd that the uncle, was it the uncle? Yeah, okay. I always found it odd, y'all, that you know that the penalty for giving your nephew away was death. You know this. Like, it's not like, you know what I mean? Maybe they're going to kill him. Maybe. No. You knew. And you gave your nephew. I'm going to look into that. Yeah, they Indians for sure. They definitely Indians. But I'm going to look into that. Because something ain't sitting right in my spirit. Something ain't sitting. Man, look. Let's get back into it, girl. But this is overkill. 300 to 400 more white people shooting all kinds of people, men, women, and children. That's crazy. They wanted that land or they wanted them people gone.
The stench of the dead can be smelled from miles away. In the end, the remaining blacks caught will be arrested and arraigned for execution on account of the assault on their lives and the deaths of their loved ones.
The general reaction of the white establishment in Phillips County in the aftermath of the riot was a charge that was leveled against the black population, that they were in a secret conspiracy to rise up and to overthrow the white power structure and the landowning class in eastern Arkansas.
In the predominantly black town of Elaine, Arkansas, a dark and sinister event unfolded that would shake the community to its core forever. That September unholy night, filled with unearthly terror and bloodshed, continues to resound in the annals of history. It was the day where a group of white mobs had descended on the predominantly black town, leaving a trail of irreparable damage in their wake. This would turn out to be one of the darkest chapters in America's history.
Can I also say this? I'm so sorry, because I got to stop it anyway, because I can't just run them people's stuff. Look, can I also say this? Put a 1 in the chat if you knew this. Do you know that from the day Emmett Till was alleged to have whistled at this clear woman, that there were time in between where the uncle could have sent his nephew back home? Did y'all know that? Did y'all? I have to say this, but I don't know why, because the way they taught us was he whistled at the girl, the way I perceived it. He whistled at the girl during the day, the same night they came, got him, and then they unalived him. Do you know that there was a time frame in between that his uncle could have called his sister or whatever and be like, hey, get him out of here. They're going to kill him. Or he could have put him back on a train. Or he could have put him back on a train. Like, I'm just... See, because the way they taught us in school, it all happened in the same day. No. It was days in between. Now, somebody said his uncle said they would kill everybody in the house. Y'all could have fled too. Y'all could have fled. They fled for less. They fled for less. People left their land behind for less. Come on now. So, basically what it was I'd rather you kill my nephew than to kill me. That's what I got from it. You know what I'm saying? But and let me say this. Typically that wasn't the integrity of our people back then. Typically, not all the time. But typically it was a little different. You know what I'm saying? Let's get back into it, y'all. Sorry. I just had to add that piece.
The deadliest acts of racial violence in the early 20th century, known as the Elaine mass killing or the Elaine race riot. However, before we embark on this dark history, do not forget to support our channel's endeavor by hitting the thumbs up button, share with friends and families to keep spreading our eye-opening Black narratives, and consider subscribing if you haven't. All right then, let's dive in. The Elaine mass killing was by far the deadliest racial confrontation in Arkansas history and possibly the bloodiest racial conflict in the history of the United States. While its deepest roots lay in the state's commitment to white supremacy, the events in and around Elaine, Phillips County, stem from
sales are hard to make.
Sorry, guys.
But royalties on.
Sorry. You got to pay the bills.
and growing concerns about labor unions. A shooting incident that occurred at a meeting of the Progressive Farmers and Household Union escalated into mob violence on the part of the white people in Elaine and surrounding areas. Although the exact number is unknown, estimates of the number of African Americans killed by whites in this outburst have ranged into the hundreds, thousands of others displaced. But first, let's take a brief look at life in Elaine before feeding you details on the chilling and heart-wrenching event that took place on that memorable night of night.
Think about this. If this was all a dispute over farmers having a union and discussing how they wanted to fight for rights, why did they kill hundreds of people? Why not just the farmers? Think about it. Their thing was, hey, we heard that they was plotting to come over here and fight for their rights, and they was gonna do it in a negative way. Okay, fine. Why not just go after the farmers who were the ones plotting versus hundreds of people? That's why I'm saying it was either the land or the people, or possibly both. Because remember, these people knew who they were in 1919. They knew who they were. They knew they were Indian. They were going with the whole lie of, yeah, we Negroes, because that's what they had to identify as in order to live amongst the people. But they knew who they were. They knew exactly who they were. I just wanted to add that piece in.
Phillips County, which is located in the Arkansas Delta, had historically been developed for cotton plantations, and its land was worked by enslaved African Americans before the Civil War. In the early 20th century, the county's population was still predominantly Black because most freedmen and their descendants had stayed on the land as illiterate farm workers and sharecroppers. African Americans outnumber whites in the area around Elaine by a 10-to-1 ratio and by 3-to-1 in the county overall. White landowners controlled the economy, selling cotton on their own schedule, running high-priced plantation stores where farmers had to buy seed and supplies, and settling accounts with sharecroppers in lump sums without listing items. In addition,
but I thought we was all slaves. These people ran the cotton industry down there. The Clears was buying from them. Jealousy. That's why I'm saying do your genealogy.
Croppers worked the land for a small share of the crop and were forced to sell their cotton to the landowners who paid less than market prices. Workers also had to buy food, clothing, household wares, tools, seed, and fertilizer at the plantation commissary, which charged exorbitant interest rates. It was a system intended to keep Black people in debt and dependent upon planters. The all-white legislature made the situation worse, as it had disenfranchised most Blacks and many poor whites in the 1890s by creating barriers to voter registration. It excluded them from the political system via the more complicated election law of 1891 and a poll tax amendment passed in 1892. The white-dominated legislature enacted Jim Crow laws that established racial segregation and institutionalized efforts to impose white supremacy.
My name is Asha Davis, and I'm an actor. I was born in Cogdell, Georgia in 1917, 2 years before the tragedy in Elaine. Yet, despite geographical differences, the world of rural Arkansas was not much different from the world of rural Georgia. Both were part of the South, then a region where Black people were segregated from whites by custom and law.
The decades around the turn of the century were the period of the highest rate of lynchings across the South. Asha Davis would go on to report that at the time, the cotton fields were the best place whites considered was for Black people. White planters needed cheap Black labor to grow and pick their cotton. Among the richest fields in the world are hundreds of thousands of square miles of land in the Arkansas Delta. The men and women who work the land are supposed to receive half the cotton crop in exchange for their labor, but many landlords would cheat them out of their rightful share. White landlords often underpaid sharecroppers for their crops and paid when they saw fit. Between the prices of goods purchased from the plantation store and the crop underpayments, many were kept in debt to their landlords.
The man would take your cotton, and then the man at the store, you had credit, he run the books up on you, so you didn't have nothing. You work a whole year and hand pick 40 bales of cotton and come out with nothing.
At the time of settlement.
This is also how they were able to take land from people too. Y'all know that, right? This is also another way that they were able to steal land. So they'll say, okay, we'll supply you with this, that, and the third, and all you got to do is do the labor and give me half or give me a portion. And then what happens is, because the people were illiterate, they would cook the books up and be like, actually, you in debt. Well, you want to work your way back out of debt? Give me your land. They used to take land the same way too. So a lot of people ended up being sharecroppers on their own land after it was already taken from them. Fannie Lou Hamer's one of those people.
Landowners generally never gave an itemized statement to Black sharecroppers of accounts owed, nor details of the money received for cotton and seed. The farmers were disadvantaged as many were illiterate. It was an unwritten law of the cotton country that the sharecroppers could not quit and leave a plantation until their debts were paid. Thus, the period of the year around account settlement was frequently the time of most lynchings of Black people throughout the South, especially if times were poor economically. At this time of 1919, it was summer. And strangely, there's been a fiery outbreak of racial violence which rippled across the entire United States like some raging force of darkness, which it obviously was. Therefore, by virtue of the season, mingled with the non-spatial unfolding chaos, it was called the Red Summer. The term Red Summer was coined by civil rights activist and author James Weldon Johnson, who had been employed as a field secretary by the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, 3 years earlier in 1916. In 1919, he organized peaceful protests against the racial violence. By this time, No less than 350 cities across the United States have been affected by this dark racial outbreak, where white supremacist terrorism and racial riots had continually unfolded. In Chicago, 23 whites and 15 blacks are killed. In Washington, D.C., 4 whites and 2 blacks. Whites are astounded that blacks would dare to fight back. The anti-black riots developed from a variety of post-World War I social tensions, generally related to the demobilization of both black and white members of the United States Armed Forces following World War I, an economic slump, and increased competition in the job and housing markets between ethnic European Americans and African Americans. The time would also be marked by labor unrest, for which certain industrialists used black people as strikebreakers, further inflaming the resentment of white workers. Going forward, many black sharecroppers in Phillips County, whose cotton was sold in October 1918, did not as well get a settlement before July of the following year. They had amassed considerable debt at the plantation store before that time.
Really quickly, I want to go back really quickly because something important was said. The clears were broke and the blacks were thriving. This is the main reason why a lot of this stuff was happening. Listen to what he said.
And white members of the United States Armed Forces following World War I, an economic slump, and increased competition in the job and housing markets between ethnic European Americans and African Americans. The time would also be marked by labor unrest, for which certain industrialists used black people as strikebreakers, further inflaming the resentment of white workers.
So the industrialists was using the black people for the clears going on strike. And the clears were jealous because now the black people working. You see what I'm saying? And it was jealousy there. Because one thing about the Negroes always worked. We always was outside working. So, okay, y'all want to go on strike with the bull? We'll just hire more Negroes. Yeah, it's always about the bag, right? Like, it's ridiculous. But this was a jealousy thing. This is the reason that a lot of this stuff was happening. They wanted to take the land, and they were mad because blacks were doing well, better than them at least at some point. Because let me tell y'all something. Clears were very poor too, and they were indentured servants too. Don't let that go over your head. They were doing bad at times when we weren't.
Going forward, many black sharecroppers in Phillips County, whose cotton was sold in October 1918, did not as well get a settlement before July of the following year. They had amassed considerable debt at the plantation store before that time, as they had to buy supplies, including seed, to start the next season. However, in that remarkable year of 1919, black farmers on this side of Elaine had begun to organize themselves in the endeavor to negotiate better conditions, including fair accounting and timely payment of monies due them by white landowners. Robert Lee Hill, a black farmer from Winchester, Arkansas, had founded the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America, PFHUA, at this time. He worked with farmers throughout Phillips County, the main purpose being to obtain better payments for their cotton crops from the white plantation owners who dominated the area during the Jim Crow era. Whites would often try to disrupt such organizations and threaten farmers. The Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America retained a white law firm based in Little Rock to represent the black farmers in getting fair settlements for their labors during the 1919 cotton harvest. The firm was headed by Ulysses S. Bratton, a native of Searcy County and former assistant federal district attorney. Now, to the heart-wrenching episode of the racial violence that unfolded. In the sweltering summer of 1919, tensions were already running high in Elaine. Launched on the backs of exploited black labor, the town of Elaine, Arkansas, seethed with the pent-up fury of generations. The African-American community, fueled by the promise of equality and justice, had begun to organize and demand better working conditions and fair wages from white plantation owners. On that night of September 30, 1919, approximately 100 African Americans, mostly sharecroppers on the plantations of white landowners, attended a meeting of the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America at a church in Hoop Spur, Phillips County, 3 miles north of Elaine. The purpose of this meeting, which was one of several meetings by Black sharecroppers in the Elaine area during the previous months, was to obtain better payments for their cotton crops from the white plantation owners. The union had contracted with lawyer Ulysses S. Bratton, whose son, Osier, was at the meeting. In previous months, racial conflict had occurred in numerous cities in America, including Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, Knoxville, Tennessee, and Indianapolis, Indiana. With labor conflicts escalating throughout the country at the end of World War I, government and business interpreted the demands of labor increasingly as the work of foreign ideologies such as Bolshevism that threatened the foundation of the American economy. Thrown into this highly combustible mix was the return of Black soldiers to the United States, who often exhibited a less submissive attitude within the Jim Crow society around them. Unions such as the Progressive Farmers represented a threat not only to the tenet of white supremacy, but also to the basic concepts of capitalism. Although the United States was on the winning side of World War I, supporters of American capitalism found in communism a new threat to their security.
And that's what this was about. You got to understand, y'all. Look, capitalism was supposed to take place to keep the Negro down. Bad enough, they were already taking our lands. They were already enslaving us, calling us sharecroppers and things of that nature. They needed they needed to keep their foots on our necks. We went and fought in the war, came back. The men who fought in the war felt like, I'm a man just like you a man. You're not gonna play with me, or whatever the case may be. But that didn't work in a system of capitalism. They needed the dynamic to shift, for them to be the rich and them to be the people in control, and them to have full reign over us, and not any type of even playing field. You see what I'm saying? So this is why that capitalism they keep talking. See that they use words to mask what's real. This is around the late 1800s, early 1900s. This is where it began to shift, where Black people started going. It started. This is where the beginning of us starting to go out of ownership, go out of having some sort of free will and rights into us. And look, into us going straight into 100% dependence. Guess what was the thing that brought us right into 100% dependency? Martin Luther King. You see what I'm saying? That was the home run. The civil rights movement was the home run. In mass, in droves, we went from being independent and owners right into straight up dependence and under the government's thumb. That's literally how it went. In the middle of all this, remember, there's a great migration happening. There's a whole lot of people from the South going up north. Some voluntary, some non-voluntary. That's why a lot of people from up north say, oh, my family from Georgia, from South Carolina, from Arkansas, from Texas, from Louisiana. They had to go. Voluntary or involuntary.
The success of the Russian Revolution, stopping the spread of international communism, was seen as the duty of all loyal Americans. Arkansas Governor Charles Hillman Breaux told a St. Louis, Missouri audience during the war that there existed no twilight zone in American patriotism, and called Wisconsin Senator Robert La Follette, who opposed the war, a Bolshevik leader. During this Red Scare, the threat of Bolshevism seemed to be everywhere, not only in the labor strikes led by the radical industrial workers of the world.
This holiday season, save yourself from cooking, cleaning, and hosting with a trip to Evermore.
Y'all get the lights
but also in the cotton fields of Arkansas. Thus, being aware of the risks they were taking, leaders of the Hoop Spur Union had placed armed guards around the church to prevent disruption of their meeting and intelligence gathering by white opponents. However, the white establishment would get wind of the ongoing meeting at this time, and seeing it as a threat to their power, they have responded with brute force, sparking a wave of violence that would last for days. At 11 p.m., a band of white men would shoot into the church.
You know what I wish? I know that they had their group of people that was on code back then. You know how the clears back then could call in enforcement from the military? Boy, if we just had somebody, and I know probably it was impossible because it was a lot of Sambo-ass Negroes. But boy, we had a way to form some sort of militia or some sort of like under the table type of, military, to where if the word get back to this, everybody know what they got to do. You know what I'm saying? and they could all come together. Because boy, it would have been something if they'd have called 300 to 400 more white men, and there'd have been 500 to 600 more Negroes coming from all over the South. See, that's how you cripple them, mother. That's how you would have crippled them. Beat them at their own game. They already got the military on their side. You know what I'm saying? They already got that stuff going on. No. Boy, if we just had some sort of general ass Negro, do you hear me? Who was able, but I just feel like it would have been infiltrated because it was too many Sambos back then. It was too many Sambos. Boy, we could have had some type of under the table militia. Boy, that would have got them clears off our necks. Do you hear me? Whew. Ridiculous.
Black guards returned the fire, resulting in the killing of W.A. Adkins, a white security agent of the Missouri Pacific Railroad, and the wounding of Charles Pratt, Phillips County's white deputy sheriff. News of the shooting quickly reached the county seat of Helena. Soon, word would spread that blacks were attacking whites in Elaine. By early morning on October 1, the sheriff sent white veterans from the American Legion Post to suppress what he deemed as an insurrection. Calls went out to the governor for federal troops. Telephone lines to Elaine were cut. Throughout the day, at least 1,000 white vigilantes came from all over the state and from Mississippi to join plantation owners, their managers, sheriffs, deputies, and the veterans to put down what they had called an uprising. But it was effectively an invasion. By the day's end, countless black women, men, and children had been slaughtered. The following morning, Governor Charles H. Breaux of Arkansas and a World War I veteran, Colonel Isaac Jenks, personally escorted 583 soldiers, including a machine gun battalion from Camp Pike in Little Rock, the state capital, to Elaine. Colonel Jenks sent all of the white women and children to Helena by train, ordered the immediate disarming of everyone, and authorized the killing of black insurgents who failed to disarm. Then the real mass killing began. For the next 5 days, Colonel Jenks and his troops, assisted by vigilantes, hunted black people over a 100-mile radius. They scorched and burned homes with families inside, slaughtered and tortured others. The troops were aided by 7 machine guns. At least 200 African Americans were killed, although the estimates run much higher, but there was never a full accounting. And the killing was indiscriminate, as men, women, and children unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity were slaughtered. And so, without sanctuary or refuge, blacks sharecropped with few options. Many hid in the swamps and thickets. Others were said to have been gunned down in fields as they worked, and throngs of others surrendered themselves to the authorities for arrest. Amidst the violence, only 5 whites died. But for those deaths, someone would have to be held accountable. On October 7th, 1919, Colonel Jenks declared the insurrection over and withdrew his troops. He brought the men and women deemed insurrectionists to the Phillips County Jail in Helena. And guess who they were? Blacks. Blacks in unspeakable misery, who have just been rendered homeless as they had watched their homes go up in flames before their very frightened eyes. Blacks in mourning, who had lost their loved ones, watching them shot before their eyes. Some were burned, others raped and killed. These were the very ones who were called insurrectionists, arrested and thrown in jail. As a matter of fact, that was a treatment of mercy, to still have their lives with them regardless. Held in a makeshift jail, hundreds of blacks were detained until their participation in the Progressive Farmers and Household Union of America could be verified. Those farmers who had not participated in the union were held until their landlords would arrive to vouch for and collect them. Those fortunate enough to leave the stockade, as the jail was also called, were given passes that they were to show on demand and were ordered to return to the fields for work. On October 31, a grand jury indicted 122 black men and women for offenses ranging from murder to night riding. The jury charged 12 black men with the capital murders of 3 white men and sentenced them to death, even though 2 of the deaths had occurred from white people accidentally shooting each other in the frenzy. The 12 men sentenced to death were Frank Moore, Frank Hicks, Ed Hicks, Joe Knox, Paul Hall, Ed Coleman, Alfred Banks, Ed Ware, William Wordlaw, Albert Giles, Joe Fox, and John Martin. The confessions of the black men had been secured through torture. Thus, black people were blamed, sentenced, and jailed for their own mass killing. The events that unfolded in Elaine, Arkansas in 1919 were not just a tragic loss of life, but a chilling display of racial violence and injustice. Local officials and businessmen conducted their own investigation of what had transpired in the Elaine area. They produced a predictable narrative that resembled those dating back to slavery. In their view, a deliberately planned insurrection had occurred where Black sharecroppers had intended to murder the plantation owners to seize the land. The findings blamed outside agitators for stirring up ignorant sharecroppers. The committee's narrative appeared in newspapers all over the country. Colonel Jenks' report of his mission supported this view, claiming only 2 Black people and one of his corporals had died. He praised his troops for their restraint in suppressing the rebellion. The official narrative presented a picture at odds with reality. But according to several accounts from white witnesses, both vigilantes and the troops committed acts of barbarism. A local school teacher saw 28 Black people killed, their bodies thrown into a pit and burned, and 16 African Americans killed, their bodies hanging from a bridge outside of Helena. Still, others describe the barbarism of cutting off the ears or toes of dead Negroes.
But we the violent people. We the lazy, violent people. Don't get me wrong, we have become lazy as fuck. We have as a people. We are not what our ancestors were. We are lazy as fuck. But all Americans are. So I can't even put that on that. All Americans are lazy. That's why we all fat. But listen to what I'm saying. We the lazy, violent people, and these people hanging actual women and babies from dog and putting them in front of dog. Come on, man. That's why it bothers me so much when these damn foreigners with the hard R come over here telling us that we lazy and we violent. That's why it bothers me so much that you got foreigners coming over here talking about they should be included in the reparations talk. Your people didn't go through this here. None of them was your people out there. What you mean? It is the biggest disrespect. To me, it's a slap in the face. I'm going to be honest. It is literally a slap in the face for people to come from somewhere else. I don't care if they Black. To come from somewhere else and feel like we shouldn't be fighting for this. For this to be repaired. For reparations for this. Even if it's through the narrative of slavery. Your ancestors didn't go through this. But this is the thing. They cowards. They're cowards. They don't have the, listen, let me tell you something. We talked about this last week. There was a reason why that man over in Africa, I can't remember his name, offered Malcolm X all the artillery he needed to go into what? Guerrilla warfare. Let me gag you up. Guerrilla warfare is what was used by the Indians when they first come over here. Whole other story. This African thought this African American knew nothing about guerrilla warfare. Neither here nor there. He had all this artillery, all this ammo, and told Malcolm, all you got to do is get the doggone people. I got all the ammo. Y'all go right into guerrilla warfare. Right? When it pertains to this situation, we all had that still in us and had it in that time. But we were all beat down to, NAACP, that's another one. NAACP, y'all, let's do a peaceful protest. WED, listen. Let's do a peaceful protest. All this is done by design. So it bothers me, it blows me if everybody else know who we are except us. Why is an African trying to give Negroes a doggone all the ammo so they can go into guerrilla warfare? Think about that. They not doing it on their lands. They not on their lands fighting for whatever they want. But they want to come over here and impede on our fight. That's what blows me with these foreigners with the hard R. That's what blows me. Y'all ain't got enough balls to fight for y'all, but y'all want to come over here and impede on our progress. Man, I can't even say what I be wanting to say, bro. What I be thinking, bro. I wish we were in a space where you could say whatever you want like we did 10 years ago. But bro, I tell you, I just be wanting to say some real messed up stuff. Whatever.
For souvenirs and dragging their bodies through the streets of Elaine. Also, Gerald B. Lambert, the founder of Listerine, who owned 21,000 acres near Elaine, saw white men spread throughout the woods, firing at any suspicious person. He also told how soldiers brought a suspected Union leader to his company store for interrogation, poured kerosene over his body, and tossed a match. The account that best captured the perspective of the sharecroppers came from Ida Wells Barnett, the legendary anti-lynching crusader.
Fed. We gonna get into her. Matter of fact, let me put her in my phone. Fed. Let's get back to it.
Crusader and journalist. She had been driven from her home in Memphis to Chicago because of her activism. One of the convicted 12 wrote to her from prison.
Zora Neale Hurston. I'll let y'all, yeah.
Requesting help. Courageously, she dressed up as a sharecropper and went to Arkansas.
Spoiler alert, emotional support animal.
Sorry.
She interviewed the 12 prisoners accused of murder, their wives, and many others, publishing her findings in a 1920 pamphlet. Miss Wells Barnett gathered testimonies that described the sheer horror of the mass killing from those who endured and lived to tell their stories. One Union member, Ed Ware, told her that men had fired into the Hoop Spur Church, killing several people, then burned it down the next day with bodies inside. When he returned home, 150 men came to ransack his house, seizing his Union meeting minutes and his Masonic Lodge books. As they surrounded his house, another man inside, Charlie Robinson, tried to run away. He was elderly and handicapped and ran too slowly. They shot him and left him to die. They stole Ware's cow, 2 mules, 1 horse, a farm wagon, his Ford car, and various household goods. He lost 121 acres of cotton and corn. Many families described how they had run into the woods.
He lost 121 acres of cotton and corn. Reparations in the form of land. They stole his cows, his mules, his horses, 121 acres. Let me run that back. See, this is what I be talking about when I say reparations in the form of land. He lost 100. An old man. They left him there for dead, and he lost all his crops, all of his cattle, and 121 fucking acres of land. Some clear person right now either done bought that land or it's been passed down from the people who took it. Remember, this was only 1919. This is only 1919. See how crazy genealogy is? Is some Negro around here walking around that's a descendant of this man and don't even know they got 121 acres plus incidentals, plus all that other stuff, plus the death of his ancestor or her ancestor that they are owed. But we all just running around. Reparations in the form of cash payments because of slavery. Girl, you have a better chance of getting this back than that. Let me run it back. 121 acres of land. Look.
Meeting minutes and his Masonic Lodge books. As they surrounded his house, another man inside, Charlie Robinson, tried to run away. He was elderly in his Masonic Lodge book, endured, and lived to tell their story. She dressed up as a sharecropper and went to Arkansas. There, she interviewed the 12 prisoners accused of murder, their wives, and many others, publishing her findings in a 1920 pamphlet. Miss Wells Barnett gathered testimonies that described the sheer horror of the mass killing from those who endured and lived to tell their stories. One Union member, Ed Ware, told her that men had fired into the Hoop Spur Church, killing several people, then burned it down the next day with bodies inside. When he returned home, 150 men came to ransack his house, seizing his Union meeting minutes and his Masonic Lodge books. As they surrounded his house.
So we got a Mason in here. Coincidence. Paying no mind. But there's a Mason in here. The man who gave her the accounts for the story, I just told y'all that. I just told y'all fed. I just said fed. I can't prove it. Allegedly. I just told y'all Ida was a fed. Now we got a Mason. Just coincidentally, again, pay me no mind. But coincidentally, there's a Mason here. And he lived to tell the story to Ida. Ida. And Ida was able to get it out to us. We do need, look, son, we really do need that X-File music. Because some But y'all know our goals fall. Pay me no mind. I'm just saying it's just a coincidence, child.
The Hoop Spur Church, killing several people, then burned it down the next day with bodies inside. When he returned home, 150 men came to ransack his house, seizing his union meeting minutes and his Masonic Lodge books. As they surrounded his...
Could he be the one who told them about the meetings? You know, think about what happened with Malcolm X. It was some Nation of Islam people who killed Malcolm X, but they were already told if you get caught, that's on you. Like, you don't get to say nothing. You got to shut up. So could this man who gave eye to the events of what happened, could he have been part of the setup? Could he have been, you know, one of the people who was around that tenant? Because remember, these Freemasons, these Prince Hall Freemasons, they want to be like the Grand Lodge Freemasons. Who knows? Remember, they got a secret that they have to uphold. They can't tell. It's a secret behind this Freemasonry shit that they can never repeat. So I wonder, and it's just a guess, but or a theory. I wonder if he, or maybe the ones who got away, were some of the ones who had something to do with it. Like Malcolm X's accused killers. They all did years and years in prison. And then they got out and was protected and couldn't nobody say nothing else about it. Yeah.
His house, another man inside, Charlie Robinson, tried to run away. He was elderly and handicapped and ran too slowly. They shot him and left him to die. They stole Ware's cow, 2 mules, 1 horse, a farm wagon, his Ford car, and various household goods.
This was a rich man. What he all had, this was a rich man. Let me tell you, listen, this man was not, I can't even say he was rich. He wasn't poor. This man had assets. When you talk about net worth, hold on, because remember, the land within itself is money. Then the cotton that it produces creates more money, more revenue. He had a car, he had horses, cow. Wait, what happened?
They shot him and left him to die. They stole Ware's cow, 2 mules, 1 horse, a farm wagon, his Ford car, and various household goods. He lost 121 acres of cotton and corn. Many.
That wasn't no po nigga. That wasn't no po nigga. So guess what? Whoever his descendants is that's probably running around here hollering reparations because my people were slaves, you probably don't fall under that. Now, I don't know what happened prior to that, but you probably don't fall under that. There's a high likelihood that you don't fall under that. See what I'm saying?
Families described how they had run into the woods for safety from bloodthirsty mobs, hoping to surrender themselves to the federal troops for safety. Instead, the troops either shot or arrested them. Vigilantes from Mississippi seized another Union member, Lula Black, and her 4 children from her house, knocked her down, pistol whipped and kicked her, then took her to jail. Carrying an axe with their guns, they then moved to another home where they murdered yet another Union member, Frances Hall. In a final act of disrespect, they tied her dress over her head and left her body on the side of the road for several days. 79-year-old Ed Coleman had remained at home with his wife when people fleeing Hoop Spur came to his house and warned them to leave. As they ran from the posse, the Coleman saw his neighbor, Jim Miller, and his family being burned alive in their house. After hiding for 2 days in the woods, the Colemans returned home to find dead bodies of women and children scattered about their community. Families of Union members found no welcomes when they returned to their homes. The wife of Frank Moore had hidden for 4 weeks. When she came back to her neighborhood, a plantation manager, Billy Archdale, told her if she did not leave, he would kill her, burn her up, and no one would know where she was. Most of those who survived found their homes emptied of possessions that appeared in white people's homes. Miss Wells Barnett provided hard evidence of the mass killing, but it took the Supreme Court to expose the truth to national attention. Furthermore, the mass killing and the sharecropper sentenced to death also drew the attention of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Through grassroots efforts, the NAACP
ain't never been grassroots. I'm gonna say that again. The NAACP ain't never been grassroots. The NAACP ain't never been grassroots. So the fact that they put an NAACP along with the term grassroots, that's a lie. As a matter of fact, The grassroots people who were trying to do right by their communities were pushed out when the NAACP came in. The NAACP were not grassroots organization. It was not a grassroots organization. It was not a grassroots organization. It was not a grassroots organization. Words matter. Words matter. You know what grassroots is? That's the lady who down the street who be at all the city council meetings. That's the lady who forming the neighborhood watch. That's the man who already everybody know if you need something. That's the grassroots. NAACP was a business. That was not no grassroots. Boy, I tell you. Boy, I tell you.
He built support for the sharecroppers dubbed the Elaine 12 and raised money for their legal counsel. It was in the defense of the Elaine 12 that Scipio Jones, one of the lawyers for the 12,
Don't he look like a half and half? Didn't they all? Shit, he might not even be from Acorn for all I know. His last name Jones though, but he damn sure looked like a half and half. I'm just saying. But most of them did anyway. Boule, you know what I'm saying?
rose to national acclaim. Scipio Jones and the NAACP's defense team worked to free the 12 defendants who were divided into the Moore versus Dempsey and Ware versus Dempsey cases. On February 19, 1923, the U.S. Supreme Court handed down a 6-2 decision in favor of the Moore defendants, maintaining the 12.
It's a shame so many people
I'm
struggle
sorry,
with
y'all.
most.
My nerves so bad, bro. Because this man get a thriving career really off of just happening to be in the right place at the right time. The lawyer dude, he gets to have a thriving career because he went in on a case and got the people free from death. And now he's going to be revered amongst the Negroes as this great lawyer, great attorney. And it was all set up from the beginning to go just the way let's get back to it.
Process, and noting the judicial proceedings had been influenced by a mob that had assembled outside of the courthouse before the men were sentenced. Despite the favorable ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court, the Moore defendants remained in jail facing a retrial in district court. On November 3, 1923, Governor McRae commuted the death sentences of the sharecroppers to 12-year terms in prison, making them immediately eligible for parole. On January 13, 1925, the 6 more defendants were granted indefinite furloughs from McRae and were released from jail. Although some local white residents of Phillips County still contend that white people at the time acted appropriately to prevent a slaughter in the Elaine area in 1919, the modern view of most historians of this crisis is that white mobs unjustifiably killed an undetermined number of African Americans. More controversial is the view that the military participated in the murder of blacks. Currently, race relations in this area of Arkansas are quite strained for a number of reasons, including the events of a conference on the matter held in Helena in the year 2000 resulted in no closure for the people of Phillips County. However, the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation provided a major funding for a 2002 documentary titled The Elaine Massacre, Tragedy and Triumph.
Boy, ain't nothing like the killer then coming back and doing a documentary, boy. The people who responsible for killing you come back 100 years and do a documentary on it. That's savage. That's savage. Y'all like the video, please. We need more likes, y'all. We need 20 likes at least. Can we like the video, please?
Which was distributed along with an informational booklet to every Arkansas school district. On September 29, 2019, a memorial to those who died during the massacre was dedicated in downtown Helena, West Helena. And on November 5, 2019, the Elaine 12 were memorialized on the Arkansas Civil Rights Heritage Trail in Little Rock. As sad as this seems, the Elaine mass killing was a tragic event that highlighted the deep-rooted racism and violence that plagued American society in the early 20th century. The brutal and senseless killings of African-American sharecroppers in Elaine, Arkansas, showcase the systemic oppression and discrimination faced by Black communities during this time. More so, the aftermath of the mass murder also revealed the power dynamics at play, with white authorities and media outlets working to suppress the truth and protect the perpetrators. The lack of accountability and justice for the victims further proves the need for a systemic change and strengthening of the ongoing fight for racial equality. That brings us to the end of yet another video segment. Did you happen to learn?
Shout out to this channel. I ran across this video and that was the first time I ever seen this. But shout out to this channel, man. This was a very informative video. In Army Jim Crow, we want free men and not Jim Crow slaves. We want EEPC. What is EEPC? Campaign promises and campaign promises. I'm just reading their signs, y'all. Hey, man, look, let me tell y'all something. There's so much that we are owed. Like, this is why I be saying, like, knowing what I be knowing, like all of the things that done happened to us, man, going after the slavery thing, that's, if you can prove that just 100 years ago, your family was one of these people who had hundreds of acres of land taken from them, that's immediate reparations. You ain't got to wait on no legislation. You ain't got to wait on the Black Caucus. You ain't got to wait on none of this. All you got to do is go with your genealogy and your official documentation and say, hey, this here's my great-great-grandfather right here. Right here. Yep, that's him. He was one of the people in Tulsa. He was one of the people in Oscarville. He was one of the people in Helena. He was one of, you know what I mean? And this is what happened to him. And not only will you have your documentation, you can use their documentation because they documented it too. It's in the state or the local library, I promise you. And you can take your information, coupled with their information, and say, look, you owe me. That was my great-great-granddaddy. Yeah, y'all, he had hundreds of acres of land. You can even go get the deed to said lands. Do you know that? Do you know that you can go get the deeds to whatever land that was taken from him? And there's a thing called a paper trail. They'll show you how the land came from his hand to somebody else's, and 99% of the time, it was uncalled, it was unjust. And guess what? Them people got to run you your land. Rather it be that particular land or land somewhere else. You got the, it's immediate reparations is what I'm trying to see. It's immediate reparations is what I'm trying to see. Thank you, Rufio. He says EEPC stands for Emancipation Proclamation, which was an edict issued by the U.S. President Abe Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. It freed the slaves from the Confederate States in rebellion against the Union. Oh, the EEPC stands for Emancipation Proclamation. Got it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You just educated me. Maurice says the Equal Employment Practice Commission. Oh, that would make sense. Hold on. Let me go back to that sign. That would make a lot of sense. We want EEPC and campaign promises. Equal Employment Practices Commission. That sounds about right. That sounds about right. Let's look that up. Because Zara asking a good question. Wasn't that for taxes? Yeah, thank y'all. Thank you, Rubio, and thank you, Maurice. Let's go look that up. We on Educational Friday. We might as well get educated, child. EEC. Child, they be putting up all kind of stuff. Let me go EEPC. EEPC. I'm trying to find out how to look it up because you know everything got an abbreviation now. All right, let me see what I found. Maybe I'm looking for it wrong. Milestones in Black History. Da, 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 da. Girl, I see Earth Protector in Christ. Girl, I don't know. Type the full thing out. All right, let's do that. Let's type the full thing out. Let's do that. Equal Employment Practices Commission. Let's do that. Let's see what that is. Thank you. That was a good idea. Let's see what that is. Equal Employment Practices Commission. There you go. You know the computer be listening, child. All righty, let's see what we got here. Well, what do we have here? And this is from USA.gov, so this should be legit, right? I guess, child. Let's see what the EEPC is, because I didn't know anything about this. All right. According to USA.gov, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. No, this EEOC. I said EEPC. I know what I said because I was there when I said it. Girl, what is going on? Yeah, Equal Employment Practices Commission. Let me see. Let's do it. Wait, let's go meaning. It's still, did it turn into the Equal Opportunity Employment? Could it be that it turned into that? Because it keeps giving me the same thing. This is why I hate Google. It could have turned into that, y'all. Because that's all it's giving me, EEOC. I think it could have, y'all. Let me look at it. I hate Wikipedia. I swear I hate Wikipedia. Let's look into it. Let's see what it says. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, is responsible for enforcing federal laws that make it illegal to discriminate against job applicant or an employee because of their person's race, color, religion, sex, including pregnancy, childbirth, or related conditions, gender identity, and sexual orientation, national origin, age, 40 or older, disability, or genetic information. That makes sense. Oh, y'all can't even see it. Can y'all see that? Because I think that's what it went to. You want to say different unions, but I think the union is a white man thing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Definitely a white man's thing. Let me see. Let me ask Google. Google gonna tell me. What did I say it was? Equal. What did he say it was? Equal employment. Close that. I think it is that. Was the Equal Employment Practices Commission ever turned into the EEOC? No, the Equal Employment Practices Commission was not turned into the EEOC, but it was the precursor to the EEOC. Got it. In 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt established the FEPC through Executive Order 8802. The EEOC in 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, which created the EEOC to enforce Title VII of the Act. The Title VII prohibits employment discrimination based on race, sex, color, origin, and national origin. Okay, so the EEPC that we see here in this sign, hold on, that's what it's given. So the EEPC that we see here in this sign, did I pass it up? No. It was the precursor to the equal opportunity thing. Got it. It was the precursor to this whole equal opportunity thing that we have. So it kind of like, I guess it morphed into the equal opportunity thing. And let me tell y'all something, just like a lot of our other things that we fought for, you got to know this. It always starts off being something that's for us, and then it morphs into something for everybody. That's literally what's happening. It starts off something that we create, that we fight for us, like the Freedmen's Bank, and then it morphs into something for everybody. I just find it funny that these Masons were the ones who got away and was able to tell Ida, the Fed, the stories. Zora Neale Hurston, Fed. We gonna run them down too. I just find it funny that these people were Masons. Let's close this out here because I don't want to even make this too long. Listen, there are so many things we are owed on our land. I ain't gonna say this land, our land. We are owed so much on our land. See, they got y'all thinking about Africa, so you don't pay attention to the soil under your feet. There's so much that we are owed on our land right here. Our folks fought in wars. I ain't gonna lie, before I started realizing what was going on, I was like, that's the stupidest thing our people could have did. I could see maybe the Civil War because they were trying to fight for freedom. But ultimately, I was like, why would people keep fighting in all these wars, in this white man's war, boom, 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 boom? Because we had things at stake too. We had stuff at stake too. That's why we were fighting in these wars, because guess what? A win for them is also a win for us. Not to mention they couldn't win the war without us. They couldn't win the war without us. So it's funny because even they got Freemasons now that aren't privy to a lot of this stuff. And they don't even realize that they're part of an organization that's part of the main reason why we've been jacked up the way we've been jacked up, because everybody in the organization don't know everything. Oh, yeah, we had a lot of skin in the game, Lala. We had a lot of skin in the game. Do you hear me? That's why we was over there fighting for them folks. Because we had things to lose. You know what I mean? And if our people knew that the infiltrators were right under their nose, and it was the people that they thought, you know what I mean? It was the people that they thought was for them. Boy, I tell you. Boy, I tell you. You know what it reminds me of? Thank you, William, for the super chat. I'm going to catch the replay, but I love you. Oh, I love you more, my love. Thank you. You know what it reminds me of? Remember this lady said this? Y'all remember this lady said this?
About our lineage. Who are we? We're Black Americans. I can trace my family back, my ancestors back to the 1700s. Okay? So we're Black Americans. We have been here since the founding of the country. That matters, does it not? Does it matter that our parents, our ancestors were here since the founding, since the 1600s, since the 1700s? Is that relevant? Is that significant? Yes, I think it is. Well, I mean, my ancestors didn't slave and sweat and toil and all that hard work that they did for Joanne Reed to have a job. She's from the Congo. They worked for Black Americans to have jobs. They did all that for Black Americans, not people from the Congo who are first generation Americans. Not even Kamala Harris, who's Indian American and Jamaican. Right. My ancestors didn't work for Kamala Harris to have these benefits. They worked for Black Americans to have benefits. I think even Obama is not even a Black American. This is why using color, the skin color, is not sufficient. It's confusing. Right. And this is why I say white Americans and Black Americans have been in America the longest since its founding. And that is significant. That matters. That history matters. And so this is why, and I don't know why so many, and I want to get into this issue about Black women, Black American women supporting. I know it's nonprofit, but Black American women don't understand most of them. Some do, but most of them don't understand. They think everything is about skin color. And that's a superficial analysis of the situation. They're not looking at the history. They don't know the history. And they're just so wedded to the political left position, embracing all of their policies. And their policies have been detrimental to Black America. They need to get away from that embrace of all these policies that are the detriment. So what I'm thinking, they're not doing their homework. They're not reading this cast your bucket where you are. Cast down your bucket where they're not reading this history. They're being superficial. They're just watching the television and going along with what the politicians say. That is not sufficient. About our
I just want to say hello.
Now you see why that type of stuff is so important to Black Americans. I love that we on code as far as delineation. That's the first thing we need to do, because we need to delineate in here first. But we got to get off of this skin color thing. That's why that lady say, in particular, Black women, I need to let them know that just because the skin color is here don't mean nothing. That's how we've been getting duped for hundreds of years. I don't know her name, just anticipated. Somebody told it to me before. I saw it on Twitter. If I find it, I will definitely let you guys know. Somebody in the chat may know her name. But we got to get off the skin color first. First and foremost, we got to get off of this. Secondly, our ancestors went through that for us. They didn't go through that for Scamala to come in and play black. That should be the most disrespectful thing to Black Americans, when a foreigner comes in and play you and also reap the benefits. That should be the most. Any other culture of people will have you hang for that, because that's how much they respect their ancestors. We got to get off the skin color thing and realize that our people and our people in particular went through a lot of things that no other group of people, Black or clear, went through anywhere. And it's for us, and they did that for their generations to come. They knew they probably would never reap the benefits of what they were doing. They went through that for us. And we giving it away like cotton candy. Here you go. Happy Halloween. We just giving it away. Here, you take some. You take some. Oh, he look black. You take some. And we getting... Kathleen Wells, thank you, proudly peculiar. Oh, the BLM, Bureau Land Management. I did not know about that, but I will be looking that up. Thank you so much for that as well. I will be looking that up for the redistribution of land. I will be looking that up. I'm gonna look up Miss Kathleen Wells, and I'm gonna try to get more information on her as well. Y'all do me a favor. If y'all haven't already, please like the video. Y'all, I'm gonna get off of here. We almost at 2 hours. I appreciate each and everybody for coming by. We will be doing more of these. And again, I have a few things that I've already added to my list of things to do. And we will be talking about these feds, because this is important too. These feds that was amongst us, that they write in the, listen, when the history books tell you to revere them, question them. Okay? When the history books tell you to love them, question them. When the history books tell you to hate them, do research on them. Because a lot of these people were feds, and a lot of them wasn't even acorn, but that's a whole other story. All right. Now, with that being said, y'all, I'm gonna get off of here. I love all y'all. Thank y'all for pulling up. Y'all like the video, share the video if you haven't already. I will see y'all tomorrow for some BS Monday morning for the morning jokes. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. If y'all haven't already liked the video, y'all did amazing on the likes. I love each and every one of y'all. Like I said, I'm about to joke y'all up out of here. And I will see y'all later, y'all. Peace.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. We live, baby. Come on. That's right. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, let's go. It's your boy Big Chew, the voice of the beat. You know what I won't blaze up. Come on, blaze up.
It's the beat for me.
Wow, 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 for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Drop it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Do it for your guy, for your B-O-Y. Come on, baby, we live. For your boy. For your boy. open, lift it up, up, up. Yeah. Come on, lift it up, up, up. Bend it, bust it open for your B-O-Y. Bend it, 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 bend it for you, rock it for you, lift it up, baby. Mix it with your bust or not. Come on, Blaze, you know. Drop me a nasty beat.
Mr. Carroll, how you give the voodoo doll time to talk? I don't get no fucking time to talk.
Who the voodoo doll is?
The nigga you just had up here.